Well, good afternoon, Jeffy Moultrie. How are you?
I'm doing great, Ed Billings. How are you?
You know, I realized I heard one of our episodes and I always say fantastic. So I'm doing great. How's that?
Hey, y'all. Hey, y'all. I'm fantastic today.
Hey, y'all, I'm fantastic. Well, what are we talking about? What are we talking about today, Jeffy?
We're talking about the numbers every realtor needs to know. And before we dive into this, I think that this might be the most important episode that we're going to record. Because this is the difference. Sorry. This is the difference between the agents that know their stuff and the agents that don't. And you are going to look
you're right.
good.
You're right.
All right.
It's kind of the foundation, and it's it's something I've done for a long time based on my background, and it's surprising how many folks don't have their hands around some of these numbers that really, really make a difference, especially in the market we're in right now.
100%. Yeah. Like more important than it has been since 2008.
Yeah, I would say that's 100% right, because we're in a market in flux, and it's kind of tough to know where things are going, and the numbers will help you do that.
Sure.
So why don't you take it away and ask away, and we'll go from there.
I'm going to. So Ed's very, very, very good at stats and numbers. I am okay at them. I force myself to do them and learn them. So if Ed gets out in the weeds, I'm going to pull him back in.
That's right.
But let's start here. Okay. Why track numbers for your micro market? And what's micro market mean? Yeah.
So your micro market is the primary market you work. So for me, it's going to be Chapel Hill single family homes. That's where I kind of want to put my stake in the ground. I work other markets, and I know what's going on, but I like to know really deep down and specific in the Chapel Hill single family home market. How about for you, Jeffy? What's your micro market?
So, I live within about 10 zip codes that I could have done, but the pricing and everything is so different in those 10 that I chose La Mesa. And the reason I chose that is because I walk in La Mesa, I ride my bike in La Mesa, I shop in La Mesa, my kids went to school in La Mesa. So a lot of the people that I know where I would be having this type of an intimate conversation are in this area. And when I'm not talking general numbers, I am talking real numbers.
Right.
So that's why I chose to do those 2 zip codes.
Yeah. That's really good. And that's a great way to think about it is if you're walking across the parking lot of Whole Foods and you run into somebody and they ask you, what's the question they always ask?
Oh, what's going on with the market?
How's the market? You want to be able to have that really specific answer and be able to tell them exactly what's going on in the market.
Right.
And that's
no
what
guessing.
These numbers, no guessing, no like, oh, it's great. It's like specifically what's going on. So it allows you to demonstrate your expertise and be able to answer that question of how's the market?
Right. No airy-fairy stuff.
No airy-fairy stuff. Another key reason to do it is you want to be able to spot trends over time. So if you define the numbers you're going to track and do it consistently, you'll start to see a trend line. And that's really, really powerful. It takes a little bit of time and you have to commit to the process. But you can spot trends.
Yes. So one of the things I did to keep myself on track with doing this is I put a link in my calendar to this spreadsheet. So I have a task in my calendar with a link. The link takes me to my Google Doc. I fill in the information from the multiple listings and I'm done. There's no reason why that it's so succinct and so easy to do it. And I do mine actually every week on Tuesday. Do you use it on Wednesday or Tuesday?
I do mine on Tuesday. We have our sales meeting on Tuesday, so okay. I like to have them available if any conversation comes up that I've got the numbers. And it's just a nice day to do it. I find the numbers are handy to pull them. You allow for the weekend contracts to go under contract, so you get the pendings occurring. So Tuesday is a good snapshot day.
And I don't want to skip over the spot trends over time part, because I think that's a really important piece, and not to get too technical, but the trends over time, even for me with tracking for such a short period of time, is I can see and have an educated discussion with my clients about the a month's supply of homes that we have on the market. So, which is a really important one, because that talks about a trend, that talks about, buyers versus sellers market, even market, and just be able to see that actually for the last 2 months, we've grown from half a month's supply in my little micro market to 1.36 months. So what a great thing for me to be able to talk about. Yeah. And that's why that the trends over time, I think, is important.
Yeah, super important. And again, as Jeffy was saying, what's it take you? Maybe 10 minutes, probably less, 5 minutes to actually run?
Yeah, it takes me 5 minutes, because I set up a search in the multiple listing. I have my spreadsheet ready to go, and I literally just transfer information from one place to the next. The part that takes me the longest is that I'm so incredibly interested in what the numbers are telling me that I start going, ooh, oh, okay, wow. And then I'm taking all that information in so that when I see people, I can really have a great conversation with them, what's really, really, really happening, not what the media is saying.
Yeah. So it's really cool to do that. It takes maybe 5 minutes, and then you've got, tons of data you can look back to. Like the current spreadsheet I'm running right now goes back to 2012. I've got another one. I got another one that goes back to 2002. So that's a little weird, but
that's what's cool. It's cool. Yeah. It says a lot about your ability to be consistent.
Yeah. Well,
that's great.
I'm trying to do that with my sit-ups. So we'll see if I can get a six pack abs. How about that? So that's a whole nother.
Yeah. We'll come back to that one.
We'll come
back to
podcast
on its own.
That's right.
Okay. So Ed, what do you need to do to get this going?
Okay. So some key steps, and we're going to keep it high level so that, because it's tough to talk about numbers, if you're listening or watching this.
Stay on the golf course, not in the rough.
That's right. That's right. So number one, define the market that you want to track. We talked about that a little bit already, but for me, I track Chapel Hill schools, single family homes. That's what I defined as the market. I didn't want to mix in, attached homes, because I was just concerned about how that would affect the overall numbers. So I wanted it really defined. So define what you're going to be tracking. So that's number one. The first number you're going to pull for that snapshot in time on that Tuesday or whatever day you do is the number of actives on that day. So number of actives on that day. Right. And what's cool about that is literally the numbers we're talking about. It's a snapshot in time. It's like, click, we're taking a picture. But you start to stack those pictures up, and you've got a movie. You can see the trend lines. So we're going to
And I love that analogy. So May 24th, 2002, there were 48 active listings in my little zip codes, my 2 zip codes. Yesterday, there were 75.
Wow.
48 to 75.
Yeah. The percentage that difference. Says, what is that? That's up there.
Yeah. I'd have to look. I don't know. Yeah. But that tells me, when we're talking about these things, who do I need? I need to call my buyers and say, hey guys, it's time. We need to start looking, because now you have more things to look at. Right? So a super great reason to call. All right. Yep.
So actives is giving you, supply. The next number, total pendings. And that's going to give you a snapshot in time on the demand, on what's going on, what's absorbing for that snapshot. Now, we use some in the spreadsheet we're going to give you, and we're going to talk about that. There's some ratios that we run, but pendings, we want to see that. So it's actives and then pendings.
Right. And mine in May was 52, and yesterday was 35.
Wow. So look at what's going on there. Actives have gone way up. Buying volumes going down significantly, right? And pendings lead to closings. That's the next number that we're going to track. So we're going to track 2 closing numbers, which is what's closed year to date. So it'll be a column for that. So we want that year to date number. and then what's closed in the last 12 months as of that date. And those are all menu picks, should be menu picks in your MLS. Now,
super easy to get that.
Super easy. Now, the reason we want the last 12 months, and this is going to get a little technical, is you're going to take that number and divide it by 12, and that gives you the rolling average of the number of homes sold per month. That's all that number is being used for.
Right. And the spreadsheet we have has that formula in it. You don't have to do anything. You just have to plug your numbers in and be consistent with it. That's
right.
Okay.
So to recap, we've taken a snapshot of the actives. We've taken a snapshot of the pendings. We've looked at 2 closing numbers, which are the closed year to date and the closed the last 12 months.
Correct.
Those are all the numbers you need to pull that'll generate all the cool data. And the number one number you need to know in real estate, besides your commission rate, is had to go there. Sorry. The number one number to know is the number of months of supply on the market.
Right. Okay. So let's talk about that, because we have listeners who are seasoned and we have listeners that are new. Tell me why months of supply is so important to understand and know.
Absolutely. So what we're in a market, if you have 6 months of supply, that's considered equilibrium. So at right around 6 months, that the market doesn't favor the seller or the buyer. It's in balance.
Okay.
When that number's above 6 months, the buyers have the advantage. And when that number's below 6 months, the sellers have the advantage. So it's a way to read the market. And that number is generated by taking the total number of sales for the last 12 months divided by 12, and then that's divided into the supply, the actives.
Okay,
did I lose you?
Weeds. Might be in the weeds, buddy.
Got a little bit in there.
Again, the formula is already written for you guys. It's in there. You don't even have to think about that formula. Yeah. But we want to know. So that's the number one number. What would be the next biggest number that everybody should really understand besides months of supply?
I think number of actives. I think the number of actives tells you a lot, because that's the number of choices. If I've got a really high active number and a low, absorption rate, so say it's like 2 months, and there's a lot of choices, that's a very different market than if you only have like 40 homes to choose from. So I think that's a really, really important number too. But it's, if you want to know one number that tells you the health of the market, it's the number of months supply.
Okay, good. All right. So keeping it moving. Velocity. Define velocity.
Yeah. So velocity to me is the number of homes that are selling related to the current actives. So, and this is a number I started tracking about 10 years ago, where I wanted to know the pendings divided by the actives.
Okay.
So if that number is over 100%, that means things are selling quicker than we can bring supply on. When that number goes under 100%, they're lingering a little bit.
Okay, so mine's gone from May at 108% because the pendings were higher than the actives, which the buyers were feeling because there was nothing really to choose from, 10 to 20 offers on a property, to 56%.
Wow.
So let's just say I'm out for a bike ride and I'm talking to a friend of mine on their bike while we're huffing and puffing up a hill. And I say, the pending to active ratio is 56%. Tell me how I would have that conversation.
Yeah, that's a little technical. But
you don't have to tell me how I got to the percentage, but what does that mean to the consumer?
What it means is that, there are more homes on the market than are currently selling.
There you go.
That's the best way to look at that.
Okay, great.
You got more choices. When you get like 100 pendings to like 40 actives, that means things are moving really fast. Now, another number that we talk about, and that's, we're not saying how to calculate it here, but your MLS will give it to you, is days on market. And that's an important one to look at too, because that's another measure of velocity. How long are things sitting on the market?
Right.
So that's an important one too.
Right. And then even, if you guys take the spreadsheet that we're linking here for the podcast, you can always add in what's important to you as well. So I added in contingent, the number of contingent properties, because we had 0 till a few months ago. Now we have 5, which is was unheard of. If I ever called and said, "Hey, do you think your seller would take a contingent offer?" They would click, hang up on me. I've also been tracking the amount of price reductions.
Oh, that's good.
So I don't track the number per house. Like if one house has 3 or 4 price reductions, I only track the address, because that shows me the trend is either that the agent overpriced or the seller pushed for an overpriced listing, whatever. But we're up to 10 price reductions at this point.
Yeah.
And then I have active days on market, active average pending, average sold. But you can add anything you like, is what we're trying to say.
Yeah. The number that I've recently added and starting to use in my marketing is pending days on market. So go to the pendings and get average days on market. And so that way, what I'm telling my clients is, we're going to launch this listing and we want either 20 showings or an offer before pending days on market, the average. So let's say it's 8. Say it's running at 8 days. We should have an offer within 8 days or 20 showings. And if we don't, then we need to make a price reduction.
Sure.
And that gives you a metric to look at. So that's specific to your market and what's going on. But I like the pending number rather than the active number, because you're comparing yourself. If you're looking at actives, that could be all the day old bread, right?
Right.
And we want to know, for the stuff that's moving, how long is that taking?
Correct. And that's for me, when I'm looking at that. So my average pending days on market is 18. My average days on market for active is 35. What that tells me is that there were 18 people that were enticed by the home and the price that went under contract. The other 35 properties are either mispriced, don't show well, something's going on, because we still have more buyers than we do properties to sell them. They're just trying to find their balance. But you're right. That's a really good number to track.
Yeah, great number
and
to
to
track.
use as leverage.
Yeah. And again, in the messaging on these numbers, because we're still what's your absorption rate right now? What's the days on market for active? Or not days on market, excuse me, your number of months supply.
1.36.
Okay, so 1.36. That's still way below 6, right?
Way below.
But it's significantly higher. It's 3 times higher than you were 3 months ago.
Correct.
So it's slowing, but it's still good.
Right.
What's it going to be like in a year? Who knows? But but we know right now it's still pretty darn good. It's just not as good as it was.
Correct. One thing that happens a lot, and it even happened to me today, is, Jeffy, what do you think is going to happen with the market? What's happening with prices? What's happening with interest rates? And we don't have the magic wand to know that. But what we do have when you have these numbers is a clear snapshot, or the movie reel, right, of actually what is happening. So you can spot those trends like we talked about earlier. So you can say, in an educated way, here's exactly what's happening. This is what's happened over the last 6 weeks, the last 2 months, whatever you want to do. And I see the trend continuing to go down this road. So if you're looking to buy a home right now, the chances of interest rates going up more is high. The chances of more properties coming on the market is high. The chances of properties not selling for $100,000 over list is high because of what we're looking at.
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah.
So again,
that is our magic wand.
Yeah, totally magic. So again, really easy numbers to do once, kind of a little more difficult to do it consistently over time, but there's a lot of value in doing that.
Right.
So highly recommend it, and it educates everybody. If we were all doing it in our markets, we'd all, do much better, and our clients would do better.
I agree. One last thing before we tie this guy up. Creating the right expectation is substantially easier when you know your numbers.
That's right.
Right? And we all know what it's like to call a seller every week, 3 times a week, say, hey man, super sorry, we don't have any showings, or that we don't have an offer, or whatever. But you have something to back up what's going on if you do know these numbers.
Yep. 100% agree.
So,
do we want to say where you can find that spreadsheet, Jeffy?
Yeah. So the spreadsheet will be linked in the notes section of the podcast. And if you're watching us on YouTube, it will be also in those notes as well. We love your comments. We love your likes and shares. So keep them coming. And a big, huge shout out to you, Ed, for getting me interested in doing this. I have to say that once I started doing this, my business partner, Joe's like, wait, who are you? Well, how do you know all this information?
What are you reading?
What are you reading? So, huge shout out to you. Thank you so much for getting me on board with this. And I can't wait to see what our viewers do with this information. And we want the best for all of you guys. Go out there and crush it. This is going to help you.
Very good. We'll see you next time.